Welcome to our first National Academy of Construction Ask Me Anything of 2019. My name's Keith Molenaar. I'm an NAC member and a professor at the University of Colorado. Welcome to all of you who are joining us tonight. The National Academy of Construction was established to recognize our industry leaders. An important purpose of the Academy is to provide a network system of linkage between the past and the present participants of the construction industry. As such, we've established the NAC AMA to help transfer knowledge to our next generation of construction leaders. The format for the AMA is simple. Our speakers will make a short presentation about their career and their perspectives on the industry. Those of you joining us tonight, if you've not already, please be sure to email your questions to nacama@colorado.edu. One of the participants tonight will win a $500 academic scholarship. You have to be on the call, and we'll announce this at the end of the event. So at this point, I'd like to welcome our speaker today, Elie Homsi. He is the Senior Vice President of Construction and a Fellows Board member at Parsons. He has more than 30 years of experience in the construction industry and is one of North America's outstanding bridge constructors. As Senior Vice President at Parsons Corporation, he provides construction engineering support to the different business units. He helps provide technical support to all operations in estimating, project development, and the construction phases by providing innovative means, methods, and construction engineering support to the project teams. He's done some incredible projects. His brainchild, the pile driving girder launching gantry system, first went into work on the $192 million Washington bypass. You're looking at some projects that he's worked on right now as they scroll through on the screen. Elie is regarded as an industry leader. He's developed several new and innovative solutions that have garnered numerous awards. He was granted several US and international patents, including the tilting lead gantry, the formless precast edge girder, the crawler-mounted tilting lead, and a very tall wind tower erection system. In addition to all of these professional accomplishments, Homsi is a chair emeritus for the Bridges of Prosperity. B2P is a volunteer-based charity that seeks to empower underprivileged African, Asian, and South American rural communities through footbridge building. He's a leading contributor to the advancement of the organization's mission and to share knowledge and expertise to help isolated communities progress. He also plays a leading role in other professional organizations, including the American Segmental Bridge Institute, the International Association of Bridge and Structural Engineers, and the Post-Tensioning Institute. He sits on these boards and serves on numerous technical committees. He's a frequent lecturer at many universities and high schools where he shares his experience and passion for construction engineering and encourages the next generation of bright minds to follow a similar career path. His accolades, he's received numerous recognition, including the Engineering News Record, Top 25 Newsmakers, the ASBI Leadership Award, and the NOVA Innovation Award. And of course, he's a member of the National Academy. He was recently elected, and his induction stated he's an innovator, inventor, and inspirational leader in solving complex engineering and design problems with unique solutions in construction means and methods. Elie, we couldn't be happier that you've taken the time to join us tonight. Thank you for doing this. And so at this point, I'll turn it over so you can reflect a little bit on your career in the industry. And then we have a good number of questions. We'll try and get through as many as we can here this evening. So Elie, it's all yours.
Okay. Thanks, Keith. I'm very humbled by your presentation, and I wonder if you had talked about all the stuff that I did, if that's me or somebody else. I started my career very early. I started my life very early on, always liking to tinker with stuff, liking to play, fix things around the house with my dad, helping me, showing me stuff, how to fix stuff. And this is how I started with my sort of hands-on experience. Later on, when I went to school, I was a little bit lost, didn't know what to do. He strongly suggested that I go into engineering until I figure out what to do. Once I was in engineering, I didn't know if I want to go civil, structural, construction, environmental, or any of those other fields that are available to us. So it was one of my first concrete classes. I got in a discussion with one of my professors early on in the semester. And at the end of the class, he called me over, and I thought he was going to scold me for wasting the class time. Instead, he offered me a job to be a research assistant on a project he was working on. And I went over there. Basically, I was a glorified field labor, carpenter, pouring concrete, doing stuff. And this was a very pivotal time in my life when I really saw what I like. I wanted not to design the bridge, not to figure out how much rebar or concrete or post-tensioning goes in it, but how to build it. And it was this experience in the lab where we were working on segmental bridges. At the time, they were very, very innovative, very, especially in the US. There weren't many built. It was the prototypes were still being built. We're trying to figure out how to build them. And we started working on the details, how to form the bridge, how to strip it, how to minimize the honeycombing, all those details of how to build the bridge efficiently and in high quality, and then later on test it and see how much strength it will take. It was this experience that set me, while I was still in school, that set me into the construction engineering track rather than the design track or environmental or any of that stuff. I realized that I want to work for a contractor, that I want to do the contractor engineering, not the design engineering. From there, I started working with Precast in San Antonio. Why? That was the project that we were doing the research on. And eventually I came back, took a small break from work to finish testing the project in the university, watch it being tested, broken, and then went back to work. This was a very interesting project, and from there my career took off. I became known in the segmental circles, and I went from there to build more and more segmental projects. From there, I did several of them: Colorado, Hanging Lake, French Creek, Baldwin Bridge, and I became Mr. Segmental, sort of the young Mr. Segmental. One of my bosses, I helped build the project, and we got the project, and I wanted to go build it. It was a segmental box. It was a cast-in-place segmental. And my boss didn't give it to me. He did not want me to be that specialized. He gave it to somebody else. And then eventually we got a slurry wall project, which is foundations, which I knew nothing about. And he told me, okay, that's your project, go run it. And his point was that he didn't want to pigeonhole me in segmental. He wanted to see how I'll do outside the segmental work. And that was a great experience where I had to use all the skills that I learned in the research and in the analytic and all that stuff to apply it to now a new field that I knew literally nothing about. And that was a very good, successful project. And from there on, I did a stint on a big treatment plan, went back to bridges, back and forth, and my career kept growing, and I kept focusing now on diversifying my experience away from segmental bridges, doing more girders, doing more foundations, doing all other aspects of construction to round out my career where it became more valuable to the company. My success, I summarize it in probably one item, is being able to select the best team around me to do the work. Surrounding myself with people who are a lot smarter than I am in their expertise, and giving them the opportunity to succeed and develop, and we all grow together. Picking the right people on the team is probably one of the things that I'm the most proud of throughout my career. I'll open it up to questions, and from there, I'll be more than happy to answer your question.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate your overview. We have over 100 questions, so I don't think we'll get through them all. But I'm just going to go just kind of randomly pick here a little bit. The first one is about a project, and this one's from Adam Sullivan. What was the most difficult project that you've ever been a part of, and what made it so difficult?
Oh, the worst project or the most difficult project is always the one you're working on at the time. That's my experience. It's the one that's the most pressing, the most urgent, the most have the headache. You have people breathing down your neck. You have the team complaining. You have everything on the line and the deadline and the pressure. Typically, that's the hardest project. Taking a step back, each project has its own challenge. Some projects have environmental challenge. Some projects have time challenge, constraints, money, environment, abutters. Each project has it. For me, the most challenging project, not necessarily the most difficult one, was the Washington bypass, where we had a project that the owner, the client in North Carolina, gave us a challenge to build a bridge without impacting the environment. And they scored us according to our impact to the environment. So we had to develop a brand new method that does not that hasn't been done before. It's a prototype. Everybody was telling us how it does not work, how it will not work, including one of my bosses at the time. And we had to develop everything, get everybody around the table on something that has never been built before, get all the team members buy into it, put a price on production that we've never seen, and then bid the job, get it, and now the real work starts. Now we have the project, we have to build it for the money we said we're going to build it on something that we never done before. So that was quite challenging, and the project ended up being quite successful. And probably that would be my most challenging project. But every one of them, if I tell you today the jobs we're working on today, these are the most challenging ones, the hardest one.
That's what makes it exciting, though, as well, right?
Yeah.
And I would encourage anyone who's doing a class project or needs a case study to look at the Washington bypass. It's been written up in Engineering News Record and all different places. It really is an innovative project and a great one to learn from. There's a good question, I think, relating to that, Elie, because a lot of what you do is so innovative. I think you draw from different fields. So Zane Matz asked this question. It's a little bit long, but I think you'll get it here. Assuming that most people are coming from an engineering or project management background of some kind, what are the other fields in which you feel additional experience should be gained to allow for the most effective growth and management into the future?
Problem solving is a very important skill. When we are hiring, we hire typically civil engineers, we hire construction managers, we hire mechanical engineers, we hire a lot of people from different disciplines. The skill that we look at mostly is the ability of the candidate or the student to identify that there is a problem, analyze the problem, develop multiple solutions for the problem, select a solution for that problem, implement that solution, figure out how it works, analyze it, rinse and repeat. So those skills are the skills that we look for in any candidate, regardless of what other education or what other background they have. If we, once you have your engineering and management degree, or management degree, construction management degree, we do a lot of on-the-job training. A lot of the stuff you learn in school is very relevant in those 8 skills that I mentioned earlier, but they don't tie you to what we're doing technology today. Most of that stuff is either dated 4 or 5 years If it's already in a textbook, it's already dated, and it's not applicable to the latest method, technologies, and processes that we're implementing on the job. So this is why for us, we do a lot of on-the-job training to complement what you have already learned and to compensate for any shortcoming or any gaps in your education or in your background.
Great. Elie, there's one question that's really related, and this one's from Daniel Jacobs. Maybe you could just hit this one answer here. What's the one biggest, most common skill college graduates entering the workforce lack? So what would be
lack?
Yeah, lack. What's the one thing that's missing if they could focus
Mobility.
on mobility?
Mobility.
Yeah.
If you want to get into the construction or in the engineering field, you have a choice of choosing a location you like because it's near ski slopes or near hiking or near the beach or something where you're comfortable. Get a job over there and become the best at a certain aspect of that job, the best precast girder bolt designers on the planet. And that's a good thing if that's what you want to do. If you want to become an expert on multiple type of bridges and become the expert on mega bridges, you'll have to travel from place to place to learn those bridges, to learn how to build them. They don't build 20 cable stay bridges in Denver. They might build one, and then the next one is going to be in Louisiana, the one after that Cooper River, the other one is in British Columbia. So you have to be willing to follow the big jobs, especially early on in your career, to build that experience. And that's the biggest challenge we're finding right now with the young engineers, that they like an area, they are putting the priorities on comfort, on entertainment, on stuff like that, and not willing to relocate to get the experience to become the leaders in 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Then you have plenty of time to sit down, settle, and start building a team around you.
Great answer. And I think you've really, and a lot of your colleagues have gained a lot from working on those projects around the country. It really is a wonderful opportunity to learn about our country as well. Let's switch here a little bit. Artificial intelligence, big data is really something we need to be looking at and something we study at the university all the time. Crystal Plastisos asks a question here. What's the biggest challenge with the vast amount of data that are produced nowadays on a construction project? You could answer this in terms of management or security. What do you see the challenges are, or maybe if you want to address opportunities as well, but talking about the vast amount of data that are produced.
Easy answer is data analytics. Today, I mean, if we go back to where we were 15, 20 years ago, we took a lot of pictures of the job. We had all the quality report. We had all the design. Everything was on paper, and then we put it in yellow manila folders and stuck it in a box. And at the end of the job, it went in a container and it was gone. And few people had a couple of copies of what they did and the things that they thought were interesting. And we had, at the time, it was paper pictures before the digital pictures. And they will be put in a Connex box somewhere that nobody would ever go back and look at because it was so uncomfortable and so hot. So all that information was lost. Today, we collect probably 10 times more information and digitally, and then we store it instead of a Connex on a disk drive that we cannot get to get that data and use it. The picture, if you want to look at a picture of a certain day and it's on a digital, each person classifies the way they want to classify it and put it in a folder that they like, and that you'll never be able to use that data. So the challenge we have is taking all that data that we accumulate during the design phase, construction phase, and then the maintenance and operation phase of the project, and build it in an environmental, twin it electronically, and then from there be able to access that information very easily, intelligently, and then be able to use it for the next project as lessons learned or as details and all that. And right now we have a very strong team in our company that is leading the industry on how to do that, and I'm very proud that they are with us and working on solving that problem. And we have developed our own internal methods to do it, internal software and processes, and that's managing the data, using it, and then the next step is to analyze it, to develop, to draw data back from it, get averages, have artificial intelligence scan all that data, tell you what are the typical production on a square footing that's 4 feet deep versus a rectangular footing that's 15 feet deep. Be able to collect all that data, scan through it now that it's digitally organized properly, and draw a lot of information, use the past performance data to develop the next project and optimize our work. So that would be the biggest challenge, is data analytics and how to use it for going ahead.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm kind of staying on that theme. Elie, a number of the projects that you've worked on really take advantage of automation and machine-human interface to do the construction. Kyle Valling has a question. With the technological advances being made in the construction industry and the more processes that are being automated, do you think we're at the peak of those advances, or will skilled labor even become eventually obsolete? So how do you see this human and automated interface? Are we at a peak, or do you see it continuing?
I don't think we are at a peak. We have to, but right now, if you look at our infrastructure, it's in very, very bad shape. And the reason we're not repairing it is we don't have the skilled labor and we don't have the funds. One of our biggest things on the jobs right now is labor shortages. And we get those complex projects, we get those regular projects, we get any project we get, the struggle is finding skilled labor to do the work. And by using the automation, we will be able to work, in my opinion, on multiple fronts using the same number of staff that we have, and will help us catch up with the huge backlog that we have. And we welcome automation for multiple reasons. One, it improves safety, it improves our productivity, and instead of having a type of automation would probably, an example, exoskeleton. So instead of having that labor pick the 50-pound bag of cement and break it in the grout mixer so he can mix the grout to inject the grout in the post-tensioning tendon, by having some sort of automation exoskeleton with him, he can grab the bag very easy without hurting himself, put it, work faster. Or he can have a robot do it. But at the time, somebody needs to be monitoring all those machines. And with one guy, we might be able to do the work that 3-4 people do, and the other 3-4 people will be working on another heading, on another project to get it to work fast. We have such a huge backlog that I don't think we're going to be able to catch it with the automation.
Excellent. Good. You'd mentioned the infrastructure needs, and not only the labor piece, but also the financing as well. Maxwell Ratstein asks a question here, and I know you've worked on both types of projects. Is there a difference with implementation of public versus private projects? Is there something that's a non-obvious factor that students really can't see?
Yes. Private, yeah, I've done a couple of projects for private clients. If you're a client who can afford to build a bridge on your property, an extra dose bridge in Texas, we've done one of those. So we had a client that was wanted to build a private bridge on his golf course. It was an extra dose bridge, which is mixed between a cable stay and probably a post-tension bridge. So we did one of those. When you're working with, I did a couple of private projects. When you're working for private clients, it's more personal than when you're working for a public entity where you have to deal with the bureaucracy. Private client has different expectations. If there is a change, a change or something changed on the project, or they want to change something to make it better for them, they don't have the same restrictions that a public entity would have. If today he wants to make the bridge 200 feet longer, and you started with the foundation, he tells you, hey, I want it 200 feet longer. You talk with him, tell him, okay, this is what's going to change, that's the impact. And you go ahead, agree with him, and you go and change it. With a public company, with a private public client, making those changes is a lot harder. You have a big process to do and to go through. And a lot of time you end up compromising and letting it go, not optimizing your job because of the red tape that the client has to go through to make those changes and make their project better. On the positive side, with the public client, you're almost always guaranteed to get paid. Private client, you're taking a risk.
Great. Let's jump in. There's a number of questions on safety here, Elie. The people listening are very interested in safety. So here's one from Quinn Solis. In your opinion, what's the best way to improve construction industry performance and safety ratings? He's done some research here, and how can we improve these safety ratings to be more closely matched with other industries such as manufacturing?
The construction industry has improved a lot on safety. And that change, that progress started happening when we started changing safety from just being an empty word to being a company mandate to becoming from the top down, everybody has to be safe. And the big change happened when we started adopting safety as a culture and as a value of the individual. The reason you don't go and steal your neighbor's car, not because it's bad, but because you're not a thief, even if the neighbor is not there. Your value is not to go steal your neighbor's car. Safety should be the same thing. You should be safe even when there is nobody watching you to be safe. It has to be a value that you live with. And that safety as a value is spreading more and more in our industry right now and is becoming the new buzzword for safety implementation. So that's for me the most important thing that will drive improving the safety on the project. Other factors also that will improve it is the implementation of the new artificial intelligence, of the new monitoring, of new, now with the cameras, we are able to get the cameras to observe the job site and identify unsafe behavior. With photo recognition, the camera can recognize the guy doesn't have his eyeglasses on. It will flag him, bing. So the safety guys will go down there and say, hey guys, put your safety glasses on. This is not implemented yet, but that's coming. It's being tested right now. There are a lot of companies that have prototypes working or not working or under development right now, beta versions. Sorry, I'm fighting a cold. But so this is, all that is being developed, and it will help the safety work. Will we be as good as manufacturing? I want to say, I hope so. Manufacturing work in a very controlled environment. We work in a very varying environment that change by the day. That's not an excuse. If safety is our value, we will cut it down and we will reduce it, because we will not do something unsafe because we do not believe in it, not because somebody is watching us.
Gotcha. You know, there's a related question here from Evan Birschbach, and it's dealing with modular construction. I think that can have some implications on safety, but others as well. And so he asked, have you worked on any projects using modular construction, and how do you think modular construction will affect the industry? Precast
segmental bridges, which is my sort of strong suit and what most of my career I worked on, is a modular construction method, where we take all instead of casting the bridge up in the air, putting false work, putting the formwork on top of it, bringing the concrete truck and have all the guys go up on scaffold, tie the rebar and pour the concrete and finish the concrete, later on strip the form, take the false work out, move it to the next span, and then repeat the operation. With Precast segmental, you set up a factory setting called the precast yard, where you're precasting all your segments on site, in the precast yard, and then you bring them to the job site on truck like big pieces of Lego, and you assemble them up in the air with cranes. This reduces the amount of work that the crews had to do at height and on site, and put it in a factory setting. So this is definitely an application of modular construction that did improve safety and quality tremendously. And we are seeing more and more applied throughout the industry. I can recall several hotels that were built like that. There are a couple of prisons. Actually, the hotel I'm referring to, they built the rooms on the ground, put the bed, the closet, everything in it, and lifted everything in one unit and set it up in place. Already with the bed, the closet, the TV, everything already pre-assembled in it, grouted it, sealed it, put the one on top of it. So that's definitely modular construction. It has been done, it is being done, and it all comes down to economics. That will determine whether you can do it or not. And as long as the economics works out, it's definitely something that helps safety and productivity and quality, because now you're doing it in a factory setting rather than out in the 30 feet, 40 feet, 60 feet up in the air under rain, snow, wind, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think you as a bridge builder really have led the industry in terms of modular construction like that, where buildings are a little bit lagging. You know, one thing that's not asked here, but that I wanted to point out, actually, when I was a student, I did a case study on the Glenwood Springs Canyon Bridge, and that was some of the first segmental bridge in the U.S. And what struck me was just how environmentally friendly that was. You're building right, and the same with the Washington bypass. You're building right over the top of the environmental impact and never touching it. I think it's interesting that you can come up with a solution that's both economically better and environmentally better.
French Creek and Hanging Lake were my second and third project out of school. So I was learning from the best guys in the industry on how to do the stuff. And we did provide some very good environmental solutions and efficiency. It all comes down to cost. At the end of the day, we need to be able to be economically competitive to win the job. And then to do that, we need to come up with the best mousetrap at this stage on how we're going to build the job, what equipment we're going to use, how we're going to build that equipment, how we're going to test it to result in the most efficient project.
Great. Excellent. Colin Abdou-Zaid has a question, and this is going to be the last one on kind of technology and looking forward. Then I want to get into self-reflective personal questions, if you don't mind. This one's on autonomous vehicles. How do you see autonomous vehicles changing the way that bridges or infrastructure is conducted? He specifically cites some of the smart corridors in Saudi Arabia and San Francisco that Parsons is familiar with. But any reflection on how automated autonomous vehicles are going to be impacting the way that you build in the future?
That's a very tough question, because we need to have our crystal balls all polished to see how technology is going to advance. If we look at past performance, transportation technology has been advancing at an exponential rate. And we are in the top of that exponential curve right now. And I would not be surprised if by the end of my career, and for sure by the end of the listeners, the students' career, in 30 years, 40 years, we will not recognize the cars that we're driving today. The whole industry is going to change, whether it is autonomous vehicle, hovering vehicles, all that stuff is going to change drastically. And it's going to have a big impact on our industry, how we deal with it, how we're going to do it. Are we still going to drive cars? Are we going to be, you just put an app or you click a button and a car pulls in that you don't know what it is, you get into it, it optimizes the ridership with the bus, takes you where you're gonna go. Vehicle sharing, automated vehicle sharing is definitely something that's coming down the road and will affect the sizes of the bridges, the sizes of the roads we are using, how many we're using. The cars will be able to be driven a lot closer to each other because now they are you're not relying on the reaction time of the driver who might be on his cell phone or texting or something. So the cars will be probably compacted together. So the capacity of the existing roads will exist. So we might be changing our approach to roads from designing bigger, wider, higher structure double decking to optimizing and extending the life of the structure that we have within the same corridors. Less impact to the environment, less impact to the urban setting where the cars are going in. It has a huge impact that my crystal ball isn't that good, and I don't know how to answer it other than I'll be surprised if you guys won't be rewriting the books when you're giving the talks in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you work in a extremely interesting organization too, because Parsons has people in planning and design, and you're all working together as a team to try and think about these corridors. And you're designing bridges with some of them 100-year life cycle. So it's an interesting challenge. Great questions.
Yeah.
So directly related to that, Anna Rossmile, she's asked, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself? So think back to when you just graduated. What advice would you give yourself now?
One of the things I say to myself, one of my philosophy is, I don't regret anything I've done. So what will I tell myself? Rinse and repeat. It's, but the advice that I'm very curious by nature. When I was going to school, I took a lot of classes in humanities. I needed, I think at the time, 122 classes to graduate, and I ended up, for some stupid reason, with 154 classes. I'd like to take a lot of side classes, curiosity, to better understand what I'm doing, what is life about. One of my professors, my mentor, who was not in engineering, my non-engineer mentor, told me, you're here to get an education, not a degree. Enjoy the time and try to get as much classes that will round your career, that will round you up as a human being, to be a better person as you're going into the world. And so I ended up taking a lot of philosophy classes with him, a lot of humanity classes. And one of the big advantages that I learned from those classes is, one thing stuck with me, is the toughest question that can be asked anytime is why? And I do apply that every day in my life, and it drives my team nuts when I ask why. And asking ourselves why really gets us to think about, why are we doing it? Does it need to be done? How? The why is it. So for me, if I want to tell you something, give an advice, take some humanity classes, take some things that will get you think. Don't come out from school being just an engineer, a technician that knows how to design concrete and rebar or how to build something. Try to get a well-rounded education. Take a couple of classes left and right, broaden your horizon, and it worked out for me. So that's why I say rinse and repeat.
Great. That's wonderful. And I think if you don't mind, I'm going to just compliment you on being a lifelong learner as well. I don't think you've ever stopped learning, even after you got out of school, and keep working on all of these new.
Okay.
Let's see. Austin is asking, what's your biggest accomplishment in your career so far? Building
a legacy, having a team around me that can, building a team. That's for me probably my best accomplishment. Having a team around me that if I drop tomorrow and they can pick up the flag and keep running. Team building is very, very critical and very important. Selecting the right members on the team is very important. And I consider that because I'm not building those bridges. Yeah, Keith is giving me the credit and I feel good about it. But in reality, it's the team that I work with that I select which team to join and which team to build around me. That's the most important achievement. That's the success. Having the right team and selecting the right team.
Excellent. I think let's continue along the idea of the theme and maybe your thoughts on what a diverse team brings to the table. Elizabeth Porterfield asks, do you think it's time to have more women in the construction field?
Absolutely. Come in, join. We are very strong on, we have a very strong woman. I don't look at them as women, I look at them as engineers. We have a lot of engineers that happen to be women. And they are doing fantastic jobs. They are, yeah, absolutely. More women, the more the merrier. And you're getting in as an engineer, not you're getting in because you're a woman. You have to be an engineer, you have to be a good engineer, and we have plenty of them in our organization. We encourage them, they are fantastic, and they are good engineers. I don't like to say they are good women engineers because that's lessening what they are. They are good engineers that happen to be women.
Excellent. Yeah, we're really excited at the University of Colorado. This year, our freshman class is over 45% female. So we're getting gender equity, which I think is a goal we should have. It's an interesting.
Over the year, we picked up quite a few women from CU and other places as well. But
let's see. Along the kind of management role, you've talked a lot about your internally and how you work. Samuel Wolseth asks, how do you address clients when you know they have unrealistic goals? So talk a little bit about client management and if they might have unrealistic goals, how do you talk to them and what are your approach there?
Anytime you enter, before you enter into a discussion or a meeting or negotiation with the client or with anybody, matter of fact, co-worker, superior, boss, neighbor, your spouse, your friend, whatever you're negotiating with, what I like to do is look at the point that's being discussed from their perspective, put myself in their shoes, and see what are they seeing, and look at it honestly. Don't cloud yourself with your own perception and say, oh, they are stupid, they don't know what they're talking about, and all those guys put yourself on a pedestal and tear them down. That's the worst thing you can do. Put yourself in their shoes and look at the point from their perspective. Why are they asking what they are asking? Again, the why question. Why do they want it? What do they stand to lose? Are they trying to say, if it fails, are they going to lose face? You want to end up going in the discussion, in the meeting, knowing as much as you can their perspective, their point of view, so you're not surprised when you sit and start negotiating with them. You need to be ready to end up with a win-win solution. That they get what they want, what's important to them, you get what you want, what's important to them, and very often they are not exclusive to each other. You might start thinking that it's bad, but once you look at what's important to you, what you want to accomplish, what does your client want to accomplish, and yeah, they might ask for a lot of things, but once you look at it from their point of view, what their perspective is, you look at also what they cannot lose and start focusing on it so they save face at the end of the day, because they have bosses they have to go to and say, I did a good job, boss. And you have boss that you have to go to them and say, I did a good job. And you have to find that spot where either both parties win or both parties lose. And that's the best negotiation, where everybody leaves the table happy and You come back the next day and you do it all over again.
That's great thoughts. Yeah, you really do have an interesting job that you're not only working on those engineering solutions, but you're working with the clients and then on project teams as well. Austin McCain is asking something similar, but this is not towards looking at your client, but looking at your subcontractors, your partners who aren't part of your own self-performed team. So have you had success in managing productivity rates from subcontractors, and what are your points of advice there?
As a general statement, avoid giving the critical path to a subcontractor that you don't have a very, very good relationship with, or you're not sure he's going to deliver, he or she's going to deliver. Having said that, sometimes we do have to give them the critical path. Sometimes they are not on the critical path, but because of events, they end up controlling the job either by cost or operation, or they end up being on the critical path. Again, look at the win-win situation. It's easy to terminate a sub, throw them out, and take over the work. This takes a lot of, you're sure you're going to end up with litigation. You want to avoid that. And that's going to cost you more delays, more headache, more energy. We always try to work it with the sub, see if we can come up with a solution that everybody's happy with, that we both, again, win-win. Win-win situation where both parties end up, okay, he's falling behind, I need to give him a crane for 2 extra hours that I was not counting on. I need to give him a foreman to go help him do stuff because his foreman is not very good. More often, we just assign an extra engineer to him that's not even in the contract. Just go over there, babysit them, make sure they deliver on time, and we eat that engineer. We don't charge them. Go over there, help them out, plan the work for them because they are lost, do the schedule, do the stuff, work with them on the problem, and end up with a win-win situation. But yeah, very often you end up with a subcontractor that could be a problem, and you have to deal with it when it happens.
Yeah, great advice. So Elie, we are coming quickly on the end of our time here. We usually end about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. So I have a good question I think you can end on and just reflect a little bit. And then I need to thank our National Academy of Construction and announce the winner of the scholarship as well. But for your part to kind of close out, Eric Beeson asks an interesting question. It's pretty straightforward. What is the most enjoyable part of your job? We can tell you love it by the enthusiasm you bring here. So if you can point to something, what is the most enjoyable part of your job?
When a challenge is brought in and we were able to help solve it, get with the team, do a brainstorming, sit, discuss, argue, fight about it, and throw things around, and people who are not part of the team think we're going to kill each other. And then at the end, we had a solution. And when we say that eureka moment, we found a solution, we were able to solve that problem. That, for me, is the most enjoyable part. Having everybody, was something we do in our group. We don't have titles. We don't have who you are with the boss, not bosses. Everybody rolls their sleeve and starts throwing the punches at everybody, and I receive them more than I give them out. And that's what makes the fun part, that the final solution is not my solution, is not somebody's solution. It's what the group as a compromise came up with. And when we have a group solution that we can present to the project or to the person who has the problem and implement it and see it successfully done and lesson learned from it, that's for me the happiest part of my job.
Wonderful, wonderful. Is there any other closing statements that you'd like to make, or should we go ahead and wrap up?
Be curious, ask why, and have fun. Construction engineering and construction is a great field. It's never boring. Every day is a different problem. You're not always designing the same beam. You're not always designing the same girder. Every project has a different access challenge. Every project has a different false work. Every project has a different foundation. Every project has a different client issue. And with construction engineering and construction, you will never be bored, for sure. So it's a great field. I enjoyed it. I hope my team is enjoying it, and we're looking for more people to enjoy it. So,
good. Well, we really do appreciate not only the projects that we went through at the beginning that you've built, but also just what you've done to help with the industry as well. You give back in a lot of ways, and your work with Bridges to Prosperity and the leadership role that you've taken there, and the bridges that you built and helped to build around the world have really been a great contribution. So, Elie, we really do appreciate all of that. I do want to say thank you to the National Academy of Construction, who's sponsored this. Wayne Crew and Sandy Pittman have done a lot behind the scenes to make this happen. And also the members of the Academy are the ones who've donated from their own personal funds to make these scholarships available as well. So I really appreciate that from all of the Academy members. And finally, I need to say thanks to Jane Song. She's the one who's been doing all the work in the background, making sure that all of your questions got to the forefront and that the technologies worked. So we do have a winner. And oops, sorry, I need to find it again. I apologize. Give me just 1 second. So our winner of our $500 scholarship is Esther Daramola, and Esther is from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. So Esther, congratulations. We will be in contact via email to tell you how to get your scholarship. And then for everyone else, we really do appreciate the questions. We will be having 2 more of these, same thing, second Tuesday of each month. So you're already registered. Watch your email for our next presenters. So with that, I'll wrap it up. Elie, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Okay. Thank you.